Agent Romanoff. You miss me?
Oh yeah, Charles, we got ourselves an X-Men fan.
Captain.
Your Highness.
Captain, big fan, Spider-Man. Hey everyone.
Hey everybody, welcome back to filmartsy. I'm your guy Trevor Baker, and today we're going to be talking about Spider-Man, or I guess the SnyderVerse, or at least talking about all the 3 different iterations of Spider-Man and which one was the best. More specifically, who is the best Spider-Man. Now, it's not terribly uncommon to get multiple iterations of superheroes anymore. We have tons of Batmans, a couple Supermans, we have even multiple Hulks, and more specifically, we have a lot of Spider-Mans. We've got 3, and that's not even including some of the animated stuff that's been made by Sony as well. And each actor actually gave a pretty unique flavor. There's 3 iterations of Spider-Man, and you got the first one, which is Toby Maguire. That first Spider-Man movie was so foundational for the future of superhero movies. I think its importance in film and cinema, and especially to the superhero universe, is going to go down in the history books. I remember as a kid that really piqued in my interest in comics and stories, and particularly superhero movies. It's a really well done film, and especially what it did differently was it didn't feel campy or quirky or kind of hokey. You had things like X-Men. Don't get me wrong, I like X-Men 1, but it still had that hokey feel. And you had other movies like Fantastic Four that just weren't very good. But Spider-Man was a compelling story with depth and emotions and complications. The superhero life wasn't all it was cracked up to be, and Toby Maguire nails that. There was a lot of responsibility that did indeed come with being Spider-Man. This is what Uncle Ben told him. With great power comes great responsibility, and that responsibility is not just taking care of New York City, it's also trying to manage the life of Spider-Man and the life of Peter Parker, and having to keep those connected while keeping people separate in those lives. You feel it with his relationship with Mary Jane, or really the way it teeters on being successful or terrible, and his relationship with his aunt and his job and his schooling. It really does impact all that he was doing, yet he carries this great burden to take his gift and use it to fight crime, and Toby Maguire really captures this. Now, some of the things that Toby Maguire doesn't do great is you don't really feel like he's a kid. He kind of seems like an adult in high school, and then he becomes more adult as the movies progress, which makes it a little bit easier to accept him. And then we have that weird dancing scene in the third one, which we just kind of forget. But what I loved about what Toby did and his taking out of the Spider-Man role was he did touch into the emotions of Spider-Man that is in the comics, and is done very, very well. Our second iteration of Spider-Man, we have Andrew Garfield. Now, Andrew Garfield, I feel like as there's been time to review, he's the least preferred version of Spider-Man. Now, I'm here to explain why I do think Tom Holland ultimately is the best Spider-Man, but it's fair to give him I think it's right to give Andrew Garfield a fair shake that he was kind of given an impossible situation. He didn't know he was going to have Tom Holland coming after him. So in comparison to Toby Maguire, he became far more whimsical and fun than Toby was. And although I still think the Sam Raimi Toby Maguire movies were better, he did give a whole new flavor, a little bit lighter, a little bit more true to the comics, but with poor story writing and things that didn't age very well. Ultimately, his tenure as Spider-Man he kind of was Peter Parker, but he didn't really fully go with Peter Parker. Also, the second movie is just not good. You can't have a guy like Jamie Foxx as Electro and just not have it be that good. And it was not good. And then the third iteration, the surprise iteration, is when Sony and Marvel made a deal and we got Spider-Man and Captain America Civil War, and boy did that blow people's socks off. Not only did we enjoy seeing Spider-Man take on the big screen once again with the Marvel Cinematic Universe that was just steamrolling at that time, we also got this beloved new actor, Tom Holland, who stole our hearts. And that's what I really want to focus on, is why Tom Holland is indeed the best Spider-Man. Now, don't get me wrong, I really do like Toby and Andrew, but there's definitely a couple things that really highlight why Tom was and is the best Spider-Man. First, his absolute passion for the role. Now, I know that all actors are passionate about their roles. I mean, obviously you have the situation where perhaps not, but for the most part they are passionate. But Tom Holland, you gotta think about it. He's a kid that grew up with comics, with Marvel, and the idea of playing Spider-Man blew him away. It was the dream role, and he loves it so much, he cared about it so much, so when he got it, it just oozed out of his performance. Like, his view of becoming Spider-Man was that it was an absolute honor and he wanted to do it in complete justice, and you can feel that when he's acting. Before we continue our video, I just want to let you guys know that we have a really cool Instagram that updates on a regular basis. So if you like all things Marvel, this is the Instagram for you. So go follow that filmartsy Instagram right now. You won't regret it, I promise you. Seriously, open Instagram right now and click that follow button. Now back to the video. The next reason that Tom Holland is the best is I'm pretty sure Tom Holland is actually Peter Parker in real life. He's awkward, he makes gaffes on stage that are funny or humorous, or he spoils things. He feels like a team, but he's charming and captivating. Like, if you told me that he was really Peter Parker in real life, I'd probably believe you. And that, it makes for a good character. Marvel has really narrowed down the formula and the algorithm for casting the right people in the right roles, and Tom Holland is a prime example of this. I didn't know much about Tom Holland prior to this, but they've done this before with Chris Hemsworth and Tom Hiddleston taking on the roles of Thor and Loki. They weren't huge actors at the time either, and now you can't imagine the Marvel Cinematic Universe without them. Even Robert Downey Jr. was a step of faith, a leap of faith, and he kills it as Iron Man. I mean, he's amazing, and Tom Holland is one of their best casters that they've got. He is Peter Parker in real life, and you feel that. Another reason that Tom Holland is the best Spider-Man is because he literally saved Spider-Man. What do I mean by that is, if you guys remember in 2019, it was announced that Sony and Marvel were parting ways. After Far From Home, we weren't going to get more Spider-Man, which devastated me and multiple hundreds of fans. Spider-Man clearly was going to have a critical role moving forward in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so the idea of them just pulling him from, Sony pulling him from Marvel, it just felt wrong, and it left the cliffhanger of his identity getting revealed, and they had James Jameson coming over. It just felt so wrong, and Tom Holland thought that too, and he cared so much that it wasn't just money for him. It wasn't just like, well, that's just bad luck. He called Bob Iger, and he got Bob Iger and Sony to work it out, and now we see a lot of future collabs potential on the horizon. I mean, heck, you've got this Morbius movie that's got Michael Keaton's Vulture in it, so I'm not sure exactly what that all is going to have in the future, but I think it's going to have some Venom crossover, and Tom Holland is a big catalyst for this, and I think Bob Iger and Sony have really identified that Tom Holland truly and deeply loves this character, and he's worth working with, and he also encapsulates the fans' desires. People want to see Spider-Man on the big screen. The final point, and I think the most critical point, is actually what Stan Lee says about Tom Holland. Tom Holland completely encapsulates what Stan Lee had envisioned for Peter Parker. There's actually a quote from Stan Lee, which I can't imagine getting this quote if you were Tom Holland, but Stan Lee said, "It's as if we created a living being to be Spider-Man, and it turned out to be Tom." Stan Lee is the creator of Marvel and so many wonderful, unique, intricate stories, and to have the praise from the creator for the person who sat there and said, we're going to create a guy, a teen who's going to get bit by a spider and become a superhuman, spider-like human. And then after years of writing those comics and years working with Marvel properties and other Sony properties, after all those things, for him to say, we finally create, if there was a living being, that living being would be Tom Holland. And I just feel like that puts the nail in the coffin. This is not to slight Andrew Garfield or Toby Maguire. I like both in their own respective ways, but Tom Holland is Peter Parker, and he is Spider-Man. He's stamped approved by Stan Lee. He saved Spider-Man from being lost in the MCU, and he's passionate and dedicated to his roles, and those things are admired. And on top of that, he's a really good actor and really elevates the Spider-Man movies. That being said, thank you so much for watching and being here. If you think something else about Spider-Man, or you think Toby or Andrew are definitely better, please let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear from you, and also let us know if you're excited for the new Spider-Man No Way Home. We're excited to hear more information, as we do know that's coming soon, so keep a lookout for that. And until next time, everyone, like always, thanks for watching.